Mark time!
Let everyone get in place.
You can see it in the mornings. It's like the 1920s, like silent film. You can see it dark and nothing. Great.
Yeah.
Girl Scouts, come on over here.
Here.
You can form up right here, like right here. Face this way. Come back this way. Come back towards me. Come on towards me. This way. We'll face like this. Right. Here we go. How we do? You okay? No one fall out? You didn't have to play. You didn't have to play medic. Michael. My head right. Okay. I sweated up your How we doing? No microphone. No, we have no microphone, unfortunately.
No microphone here.
Be prepared. The Lord gave me a good set of pipes. I'm okay. No microphone. That means no text. Good morning, Milton. We were without microphone today. Unfortunately, it was working until the CB put his hand on it, and somehow I killed it. So you're going to have to listen closely, and we'll just have to enunciate to the back of the room. My name's Kevin Cook. I'm Director of Veteran Services here at Milton. And I just want to say here in this sacred ground, thank you, God. Thank you for this beautiful day. If I had to list the weather I want for Memorial Day, check, check, check. This is it. This is the most perfect weather we've had this stretch, and I am truly thankful for it. We're going to start off by having the Milton High Chorus with List Every Voice, and then followed by the National Anthem. If you are able to stand, please stand and remove your cover. All members of the military, former veterans are allowed to salute, and I highly, highly encourage you to stand and salute. As a veteran, you earned that right.
Every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it let's march on till victory is won.
Unit commanders, bring your men to attention.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight for the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Unit, place your men at ease. Unit commanders, please place your men at ease. We'll now have an invocation by Reverend Kirkham Hall, St. Michael's Episcopal Church, Milton, Massachusetts. O Holy One, in the silent stirring of our hearts on this day, we hold before you the memories of those who, with compassion for suffering and conviction of purpose, ventured their lives and gave them over to serve your call of liberty for the captives, security for the weak, the lifting of the bar from the oppressed, and the care and nurture for the wounded and dying on fields of battle and of chaos. Sanctify in their depths their yearning for peace, for liberty, and for an end to suffering, and make their memories hymns of gratitude, benediction, and counsel that sustain each of us in the steps that we take today and going forward. Amen. We'll now have welcoming remarks by Chairman James Coyne, Milton Cemetery Trustees.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you and good morning. My wife said I always have an Irish whisper, so I don't think I'll need a microphone. My name is James Coyne, and on behalf of the fellow cemetery trustees, Stephen Pender, Joseph Reardon, Jed Dolan, and Terrence Driscoll, I welcome you to the 2023 Memorial Day service here in the Veterans section of the Milton Cemetery on this beautiful morning. Behind me is the final resting place of all those that gave their lives for the protection of this great country and all its freedoms. This is a somber day of reflection, a time to remember those men and women who have helped deliver us our freedoms, but who never got the chance to step off the battlefield. The grounds of Milton Cemetery are a unique place. While it is part of the everyday scene, it is not part of the everyday life. That is to say, it is a place where tranquility and quiet are the desired norm and should be treated with dignity and respect at all times when visiting. Our superintendent, Lisa Ahern, along with her incredible staff, they include Meg Toyas, Mark Chapman, Matthew Bellafato, Joe Baxter, Joshua Savory, Dave Kuna, Solomon Rodriguez, Wanda Pacasandre, and Jack Ryder are the reasons for this in what we like to describe as the most beautiful municipal cemetery in Massachusetts. It is also important to recognize the countless volunteers, led by Veterans Agent Kevin Cook, that took it upon themselves a few weeks back to make sure that each and every veteran's grave and residence at the Milton Cemetery was visited and adorned with a brand new American flag to honor their service to this great country. They are not forgotten and never will be. In total, more than 1,700 flags were placed. As a nation, we made a promise that must be kept. On behalf of the fellow trustees and our staff, thank you for being in attendance today as we honor those who have made the supreme sacrifice for our freedom. Thank you.
I'm going to have the Pledge of Allegiance led by the Girl Scouts, and we have a different troop this year who stepped in, Troop 70724 from Milton. Girls, are you ready? All right, we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. Hand over heart. Go ahead, you lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Someday, each of us will not be here. This is the future generation of Milton, and we will always include them in our ceremonies because we want them to be the ones doing this when we aren't here to do it for us. Thank you, girls. You have my thanks and my admiration. And I'm sure it'd be easier for you to go sit in the shade now that you're going to listen to a bunch of people like me do this for about a half an hour. So please, you may go off to your parents. I stood in formation at so many ceremonies for like forever, and I know what that feels like, and I have admiration for my police and fire and scouts because I know what that feels like. But the Girl Scouts, I think I'm going to give them an excuse today, let them stand off. Frank Stout called me yesterday, and unfortunately he's been called away due to a family situation, so he could not be here to represent the Legion, but I will stand in his place and represent the members of the Legion 114 post with today's dignitary recognition. 2023 Memorial Day dignitaries. First and foremost, we recognize the residents of the town of Milton who make this possible. You are our most highest dignitary. There can be no greater honor than what you do for our veterans and our fallen here at Milton Cemetery. So you are our most important person. Thank you. U.S. Representative Stephen Lynch, Senator Walter Timothy, who will be here with us later. I saw him in Randolph this morning at about 9 o'clock, and he was on the run. So he'll be coming in probably at the tail end of our ceremony. Representative William Driscoll, Representative Fluker Oakley, Michael F. Zulish, Chairman of the Milton Select Board, Aaron G. Bradley, Vice Chair, Select Board, Benjamin Zoll, Select Board Member, Roxanne Musto, RN, Select Board Member, Richard Wells, Select Board Member, Nicholas Milano, Town Administrator, Milton Cemetery Trustee Jim Coyne and his board, Lisa Ahern and her military superintendent and her staff who made this place look like the beautiful place that it is every year. And thank you, Lisa, for all your support with our Flags In, which is one of the most well-attended veterans events every year, and I thank you for that. Our keynote speaker, Senior Chief Construction Member Dan Yasserino, U.S. Navy, and I take responsibility. On the back of a program, if you have one in your hand, I managed to muck up his rate with my keying. I put him in as a yeoman Senior Chief instead of constructionman Senior Chief, so I took ownership of that with the Senior Chief because I shouldn't have made that keying error, but I did, so I own my own mistakes. Town meeting moderator Robert Hiss, Reverend Kirkham Hall, Rector St. Michael's Church, American Legion Post number 114 Commander Paul McDonald, Milton's Gold Star families, who we are in awe of, for all you've done and all you endured in our name. And of course, Milton veterans and their families. I'll now bring up Milton Middle School student Piper Bergen, Project 351 ambassador, who will read the Project 351 proclamation from the governor.
The Commonwealth of Massachusetts, a proclamation. Whereas, while the nation is still recovering from the horrors of the Civil War, people in cities and towns across the country gathered to honor those Union and Confederate soldiers who had given their lives celebrating the first decoration. And whereas, after World War I, the nation came together again to honor those who had fallen in the service of their country. Renamed Memorial Day, the last Monday in May is when people remember and honor the memory of the fallen men and women who fought and died in all American wars and conflicts. Whereas, throughout our country's history, thousands of Massachusetts citizens have fought in wars and conflicts to defend our safety and way of life. And whereas, their legacy of patriotism and dedication to country is an inspiration to all Americans. And whereas, it is appropriate that all Massachusetts citizens remember the bravery of those who gave their lives so that their sacrifices serve as a reminder of the cost of our freedom. Now, therefore, I, Lawrence E. Milton, Governor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, do hereby proclaim May 29, 2023 to be Memorial Day, and urge all the citizens of the Commonwealth to take cognizance of this event and participate faithfully in its observance. Given at the Executive Chamber of Boston, this first day of May in the year 2023, and of the independence of the United States of America, the 246th, by Her Excellency Lawrence E. Milton, Governor of the Commonwealth. God save the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
In the military, you're not allowed to be away from your duty station until dismissed by a superior. This is the Milton Challenge coin. It was established when I came on board 7 years ago. Where did that time go? And it is a long-serving tradition of a military member superior to a junior member in recognition of the job well done. Thank you. We'll now have remarks by the chair of our select board, Michael F. Zulis.
Veterans and first responders, elected officials, reverend clergy, Senior Chief Petty Officer Yasserino, and other distinguished guests, and my fellow celebrants. A few weeks ago, during the flags-in ceremony that Mr. Cook mentioned, my daughters and I read some of the headstones in the older section of the cemetery. When you look at some of the headstones that are 100 years old or 200 years old or even older, they often contain brief stories of the lives of the departed. And sometimes you can discern some of the values that they lived. On one of them in the old section of the cemetery, you can read about Captain Louis Bose, a soldier of the War of the Revolution, who died on January 9, 1835, at age 74. When we read the stories on those headstones and we think about their values, then those who went before us live on. And that is what today is about. Keeping alive the memory of service members who passed on and the values for which they served and fought and died. Now, many of us have stories about service members who passed on, and many of us are inspired by the lives and their values. Here are just a few from our select board members. During World War II, Vincent Murphy served in the Army's Cavalry Division.
I want to listen to more of that. We'll now have Richard Wells come up. I'm calling an audible, and he's going to read General Logan's Memorial Day order for me, because I didn't have another student to do it, but I'm sure Richard will fill in most admirably. Because I like putting them on the spot.
Yeah, you can do that.
I know.
You can do that. My God. Good morning. Memorial Day order, Headquarters Grand Army of the Republic, Washington, D.C., May 5th, 1868. General Orders, number 11. 30th day of May, 1868 is designated for the purpose of strewing with flowers or otherwise decorating the graves of comrades who died in defense of their country during the late rebellion, and whose bodies now lie in almost every city, village, and hamlet churchyard in the land we call America. In this observance, no form or ceremony is prescribed, but posts and comrades will in their own way arrange such fitting services and testimonials of respect as circumstances may permit. We are organized, comrades, as our regulations tell us, for the purpose, among other things, of preserving and strengthening those kind and fraternal feelings which have bound together the soldiers, sailors, and Marines who united to suppress the late rebellion. What can aid more to assure this result than by cherishing tenderly the memory of our heroic dead, who made their breasts a barricade between our country and its foes? Their soldier lives with the reveille of freedom to erase in chains and their deaths the tattoo of rebellious tyranny and arms. We should guard their graves with sacred vigilance, all that the consecrated wealth and taste of the nation can add to their adornment and security is but a fitting tribute to the memory of her slain defenders. Let no wanton foot tread rudely on such hallowed grounds. Let pleasant paths invite the coming and going of reverend visitors and fond mourners. Let no vandalism of avarice or neglect, no ravages of time, testify to the present or to the coming generations that we have forgotten as a people the cost of a free and undivided republic. If other eyes grow dull and other hands slack and other hearts cold in the solemn trust, ours shall keep it well as long as the light and warmth of life remains inside of us. Let us then, at the time appointed, gather around their sacred remains and garland the passionless mounds above them, the choicest flowers of springtime. Let us raise above them the dear old glory and save them from dishonor. Let us, in this solemn presence, renew our pledges to aid and assist those who have left among us the sacred charge upon the nation's gratitude, soldiers and sailors, widows and orphans. It is the purpose of the Commander-in-Chief to inaugurate this observance with the hope that it will be kept from year to year, while a survivor of war remains to honor the memory of his departed comrades. He earnestly desires the public press to call attention to this order and let its friendly aid in bringing it to the notice of comrades in all parts of the country in time for simultaneous compliance therein. Department commanders will use every effort to make this order effective. By command of John A. Logan, Commander-in-Chief, Adjutant General.
Thank you, Richard. General Logan's order is what codified what we do here on Memorial Day, and I would hope that he would know in heaven that it's still being carried out to this day across our nation, and is one of the most poignant and important orders that we've ever received in our armed forces. We're going to have a placement of the wreaths. We have two Legion members, Austin McGurk and Jim Canale, who will come and just place the wreath for us at the memorial and render a hand salute. Gentlemen, please come forward. Come on. You can just pick up the wreath, just step back and then place it. Hand salute, please. Yeah, go ahead.
Kevin.
Salute. Two. Thank you, gentlemen. Again, you have my thanks for everything today, all who contributed to today's celebrations and our ceremonies. I'm only one person. There's no way I could do this all by myself. It takes many, many hands, and I really deeply appreciate everything that's done to make this possible, except for the planes. I'm a big student of history, as you may know, and when I bring history forward, it's in remembrance, to make sure that those we talk about here are not forgotten, and that maybe you'll share the story to someone else, and in turn, that story spreads out. I'm going to feature a little information about a unit I discovered, and then the news story that brought this to my attention, and I will read that story to you from Arlington National Cemetery, our most sacred ground. The United States Colored Troops, USCT, were Union Army regiments during the American Civil War that primarily comprised African Americans, with soldiers from other ethnic groups that also served in USCT units. Established in response to a demand for more units from the Union Army commanders, by the end of the war in 1865, USCT regiments, which numbered 175 in total, constituted 1/10 of the manpower of the Army. Approximately 20% of USCT soldiers were killed in action or died of disease or other causes, a rate 35% higher than white Union troops. Numerous UCT soldiers fought with distinction, including 16 who received the Medal of Honor. The USCT regiments were precursors to the Buffalo Soldier units that fought in the American Indian War. We remember these brave men today for their sacrifice, who stood out of slavery and took up arms to defend our nation, a nation which had enslaved them, but were dedicated to the principles of freedom and courage and honor and dedication. The news story that's the follow-up to this, which brought it to my attention, this is recent, this is 2023, just about 3-4 weeks ago, from Arlington National Cemetery. U.S. Union Captain Isaac Hart probably never imagined that while leading his company of black cavalrymen during the American Civil War, his remains would be laid to rest at Arlington National Cemetery in 2023. But that's exactly what happened recently in Section 76. Hart, a white man from New Bedford, Massachusetts, joined the U.S. Army on April 16, 1861, 11 days after Confederates had fired on Fort Sumter, igniting the war. He served in 2 different Massachusetts regiments before joining the U.S. Colored Troops USCT 2nd Cavalry Regiment for the war's last year and a half. With that regiment, he helped capture Bermuda 100, a strategic location in Virginia, and laid siege to Petersburg and Richmond. Leading a black unit in the war took extreme courage. The Confederate Congress threatened to severely punish or execute officers found leading black troops. After the war, Hart remained in the Army for more than a year and rose to the rank of brevet major. Meanwhile, he was a husband and father of 2, and his first wife Clementine passed away and married his second wife Hannah, and their marriage lasted until 1913 when he died of unknown causes. Yet Hart was never buried. His remains were placed in an urn on a shelf in unclaimed remains in Cincinnati, Ohio cemetery. They were recently rediscovered there by a man preparing to bury a family member. He researched Major Hart and found one of his descendants living in Albion, Indiana. Hart's great-great-niece, Rachel Bender, who traveled with her husband to the cemetery to claim her ancestors' remains and then contacted Arlington National Cemetery for a proper burial. On a sunny day recently, a small crowd of about 17 people, including 4 Union Army reenactors and 2 National Park Service Rangers, gathered to pay their final respects as a horse-drawn caisson delivered Hart to his final burial location. I know that Isaac was loved and that he will forever be missed, Army Chaplain Captain John Ulrich told the gathering, but I also know that he will never be forgotten. I salute Major Hart of New Bedford, Massachusetts, and all his troops, including those who never returned. They have my thanks and my grateful heart that they did what they did to help our nation. Thank you. Our featured speaker today is U.S. Navy Senior Chief Constructionman Dan Yasserino, and I have a little information on him. It's not often I can share the dais with a CB, which is a great thing. Maybe it was the 2 CBs together that made the sound system die, I don't know. But he also served in a unit that I've served in, which is the 7th Naval Construction Regiment, and that was the unit I deployed to Iraq with. So it's another bond that we share, even though I'm a little longer in the tooth than I think the Senior Chief may be. Senior Chief Petty Officer Dan Yasserino is a native of Connecticut, where he earned a Bachelor of Science degree in Business Management at Quinnipiac University. In 2004, relocated to Massachusetts, beginning his career in commercial construction in the Boston area, and have been a Milton resident since 2015. On July 30th, 2004, Senior Chief enlisted in the United States Navy Reserve as a construction man through Naval Reserve Ascension Course. And upon completing basic training at Recruit Training Command, he was assigned to Naval Mobile Construction Battalion 27. During his tour at NMBC 27, held various positions in the local detachment out of Quincy, Charlie Company, and battalion operations. In 2008, second-class petty officer, he was mobilized Operation Iraqi Freedom, and during his deployment to Iraq, he was a crew leader on various construction projects in both Al-Assad and Balad air bases. In 2012, he deployed as part of the Air Detachment, NMCB-27, supporting U.S. Southern Command Operation New Dawn. And while he was with the detachment of Seabees in El Salvador, he was QA/QC and safety leading petty officer on a rappel tower improvement project. His next duty station was the 7th Naval Construction Regiment, where his training department leading petty officer was responsible for increasing readiness of the regiment and 2 construction battalions. During this time, he was involved in planning and execution of 2 post-exercises and part of a regiment relocation from Newport, Rhode Island to Gulfport, Mississippi. In 2020, Senior Chief was assigned to Naval Mobile Construction Battalion 14 based in Gulfport, holding various leadership positions. He's currently the Battalion Operations Department leading Chief Petty Officer. He resides here in Milton with his wife Ashley and his daughters Olivia and Violet, who are both students at Cunningham Elementary School. He's employed by Lincoln Property Company as a commercial construction project manager in Boston, and his personal awards include 3 Navy Marine Corps Achievement Medals, 1 Army Achievement Medal, and various unit and campaign awards. I give you our featured speaker, Senior Chief Construction Member, U.S. Navy Dan Yasserino.
I'm a little hard of hearing, so if you guys can't hear, feel free, don't be shy, come closer, please. Thank you, Kevin, for the introduction and for the invitation to these hallowed halls, hallowed grounds on such a beautiful spring day. I am humbled and grateful for this opportunity to speak here. Good morning to all of our distinguished guests, our elected officials, Milton Board of Selectmen, town administrators, and clergy. Thank you to all of my Milton neighbors, friends, family, and fellow veterans for being here today. I'd also like to acknowledge my beautiful wife Ashley and our daughters Olivia. I would not be able to do what I do if it wasn't for their patience and support. If there are any Gold Star families in attendance today, I think I speak for everyone here in saying that our nation is truly grateful for your family's sacrifice. Similar to many public buildings in any town or city, or the buildings on the college campus, most of the roads and buildings on a military installation and the ships in the U.S. Navy are named. Ships are categorized into classes, and each ship has a theme. New aircraft carriers are named for U.S. presidents, while one class of submarines is named after states of the Union. Guided missile cruisers are named after historic battles. Many ships, streets, and buildings are aptly named for people who played a significant role in history, are war heroes or leaders, or were killed in combat. Many of us know little about these people whose names are displayed so prominently all around us. As was mentioned in my biography, I'm a Navy Seabee. The Seabee nickname is a heterograph of the initial letters C and B from the words Construction Battalion. After the attack on Pearl Harbor by Japan in 1941, the United States had about 70,000 men working on construction contracts overseas. International law made it illegal for civilian workers to resist an enemy attack, so the Navy conceived the idea of Seabees to replace these civilian construction companies in combat zones. The Seabees have played a significant role in the Navy's history, participating in every major conflict since their birthday on March 5, 1942. Although the mission of the Seabees is to build, we're also trained to fight. On many occasions, Seabees have found ourselves under fire with the Marine Corps. Since World War II, 22 Civil Engineer Corps officers and 353 Seabees have been killed in action, and over 500 have died on job sites. Now I'd like to tie these two topics together by telling several stories of Seabees who have been killed in action. I'll start this journey by taking you on a short tour of the Naval Construction Battalion Center in Gulfport, Mississippi, which is home to the Atlantic Fleet Seabees. The headquarters building of NCBC Gulfport is located at 4902 Marvin Shields Boulevard. Construction mechanic 3rd class Marvin Shields is the first and only Seabee to be awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor. While Seabee Team 1104 was deployed to Vietnam, the Battle of Dong Xai took place from June 9th to 13th, 1965. An Army Special Forces camp that was under construction by the Seabees was mortared by a Viet Cong regiment. After being wounded by the mortar fire, Shields fought with Special Forces soldiers against the enemy, carrying up needed ammunition to the firing line positions. Although wounded again by shrapnel and shot in the jaw, he helped a soldier and a Seabee carry the badly wounded Special Forces captain in charge of the camp to a safer position on the compound. After 4 more hours of fighting and greatly weakened, Shields volunteered to help a Special Forces 2nd Lieutenant destroy a Viet Cong machine gun outside the perimeter, which was threatening to kill everyone. The lieutenant, armed with a rocket launcher, which was loaded by Shields, destroyed the machine gun. And on the way back to the building, the lieutenant was wounded for the 4th time and Shields for the 3rd time, shot in both legs. Shields was evacuated to Saigon with 5 other Seabees, but died during the evacuation, just 25 years old. In addition to the street in Gulfport from 1969 until 1992, there was also a Navy frigate named in honor of Marvin Shields. And today, there's a barracks at the Little Creek Naval Amphibious Base that bears his name. If you're going to spend a night on base in Gulfport, you might stay at the Stetham Memorial Navy Lodge. Steelworker 2nd class Robert Stetham, who was born in Waterbury, Connecticut, was killed during the hijacking of TWA Flight 847 in 1985 at the age of 23. While on his way back from the United States from an assignment in Greece, he was held for 17 days with 38 other hostages. When the terrorist demands were not met, SW2 Stetham was targeted because he was a member of the U.S. military. He was beaten, tortured, and finally the terrorists shot him in the temple and dumped his body onto the tarmac at the Beirut airport. Several buildings and roads at various military installations bear the Stetham name, as well as the destroyer, the USS Stetham. If you're looking to hit the gym on base in Gulfport, you'll go to the Raymond J. Border Fitness Center. Builder Chief Petty Officer Raymond Border was killed at 31 years old by an improvised explosive device in Afghanistan on October 19, 2011. His friends have told me that he was a larger-than-life man with a huge smile. He loved his family, the Navy, and his sailors. In 2008, I had the good fortune to spend 2 weeks in a class he instructed and can attest to these qualities. Fitness was a way of life for Chief Border, so it was an appropriate tribute that the new gym on base was named in his honor just 2 years ago. In 1943, the Navy took possession of Quoddy Village in Eastport, Maine, to use as a CB training center. In 1944, the camp was named for the first Civil Engineer Corps officers killed in action, Lieutenant Irwin Lee and Lieutenant J.G. George Stevenson of the 24th Naval Construction Battalion. While leading their troops in combat against the Japanese, Lee and Stevenson were killed in a Japanese air raid on Rendova, a Solomon Island, along with 23 enlisted men. Not only was the CB Training Center named Camp Lee Stevenson, but most of the 30 streets on the camp were named for the enlisted Seabees that died with Lee and Stevenson on Rendova. The other streets were named for Seabees killed elsewhere in the war. Although the area is no longer used by the Navy, a monument stands in the former training center's location, and all of the public streets in the area still bear the names of these Seabees. 11 years ago, on the Little Creek Naval Amphibious Base in Virginia, a new building was dedicated to Lieutenant Carl Milford Olson. He was the first American officer killed during a land invasion in Europe during World War II. During World War I, Carl Olson was an enlisted radioman in the Navy. After the war, he attended University of Minnesota, graduating with a degree in civil engineering. For the next 18 years, he worked in the civilian sector, including during the start of World War II, where he was writing specifications and contracts for ordnance plans. But it was his strict devotion and patriotism to his country that propelled him to leave his civilian job, wife, and kids to rejoin the Navy at the age of 42 as a Civil Engineer Corps officer. During the war, he helped develop and build many of the fittings and attachments which made the CB pontoon causeways and Rhino ferries successful in landing operations. The ramp used for unloading cargo at the front of each of these huge barges was also known as the Olson Ramp. It was while he was on one of these pontoons that an enemy bomb hit, causing his death while liberating the port of Naples, Italy. Lieutenant Olson died in action at the head of his men as an outstanding example of an engineer and officer. The last 7 names I'm going to share do not have their names on a ship or building. They are, however, etched on a monument in a park on Naval Air Station, Jacksonville, Florida. On April 30th, 2004, a tactical movement team from Naval Mobile Construction Battalion 14 was providing convoy security from Husaybah to Ramadi, Iraq. Came under insurgent attack. Equipment Operator 3rd Class Christopher Dickerson and hull maintenance technician 2nd Class Jason Dwelly were killed in action that day. 5 more were wounded. They had been in Iraq for less than 2 weeks. On May 2nd, 2004, just 2 days later, 5 Seabees, also from NMCB-14, perished, and 31 were wounded in a rocket attack at Forward Operating Base Junction City, Ramadi. The Seabees that lost their lives were Builder 2nd Class Michael Anderson, Equipment Operator 2nd Class Trace Dossett, Construction Mechanic 2nd Class Scott McHugh, Builder second class, Robert Jenkins. Steelworker third class, Ronald Ginther. This was the deadliest day for the Seabees since the Vietnam War. All of these reserve Seabees were from Florida and Georgia and ranged in age from 31 to 37 years old. I've told these stories today in order to paint a picture which demonstrates that the names of heroes are all around us. Their names may not be on a ship, building, or street sign, but that doesn't make them any less important. Massachusetts alone has seen over 37,000 military deaths from the Revolutionary War until today. This number includes 80 Milton residents killed during World War II, 1 Milton resident during the war in Korea, and 5 of our neighbors killed in Vietnam. Each of these warriors who died for our nation and our way of life was a son or daughter. Many were husbands or wives, fathers or mothers. Some were doctors, mechanics, students, teachers, carpenters, or farmers. All were unique individuals tied together by a sense of purpose, a purpose greater than oneself that included a desire to fight against tyranny, oppression, or terrorism. John F. Kennedy remarked, "A man may die, nations may rise and fall, but an idea lives on." This American idea of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness does live on in our young nation thanks to those who have willingly sacrificed their own lives. These patriots never got to live the life they dreamed of. President Reagan eloquently said, "They gave up 2 lives, the one they were living and the one they would have lived." He also said, "What they gave us is beyond our powers to repay." However, it is now our responsibility to carry on their unfinished work, to not only honor their memory, but to ensure peace and freedom lives on for our future generations. We must put aside our differences, find goodness in our fellow Americans, and come together as neighbors to advance the cause of liberty. So, my challenge to all of you is to ask yourself these questions. What am I doing to serve my community? And what will I do for freedom today? I'm proud to wear these anchors in service to my country. I'm honored to be here with all of you today, and I'm especially grateful for the love and support of my family. Thank you to the entire Milton community for your continued support of our first responders, veterans, and military personnel. Finally, let us remember and celebrate all those who willingly gave their lives for us by living the best life you can, not only in words, but in action. God bless all of you, and may God continue to bless America.
I share Senior Chief's sentiments and his emotion. It's tough getting up here and talking about these things because they mean a lot. You may have noticed inside the program, if you received one today, an insert on Elliot Gruner. Janet Hazzard, who gave this to me. Janet, are you here? There we go, okay. Janet Hassan brought this to my attention, and her husband, as a member of her family, Elliot Gruner, who died in action in Milton, and asked me if I would share his story. And I was honored to. His story touched me. Thank you, Janet. Thank you for bringing this to our ceremony. I could not have done a better job selecting a more splendid person to honor than your uncle. And please remember him. He served and gave his life for all of us. Uniquely. Hang on a second. We've got to find the list among all the papers there. We're going to read a list of all the veterans who were not here today. Didn't want it to fly away. And Senior Chief, you'll stand over here, please. and he will salute as we read each name to account for each member of our Milton veteran community who is no longer here. Robert G. Conlon, Korea. Oh yeah, unit, please bring your men to attention, I'm sorry. Robert G. Conlon, Korea, Marine Corps. You say absent.
Absent.
John D. Colthor, Korea, Marine Corps.
Absent.
John F. Kearns, Korea, Army.
Absent.
William Herbert Sebring, Vietnam, Army.
Absent.
Thomas J. Richardson, Vietnam, Coast Guard.
Absent.
Michael C. Walsh, Korea, Army.
Absent.
Paul T. McCarthy, Korea, Marine Corps.
Absent.
Andrew J. Sheehan, Korea, Army.
Absent.
James D. Gillis, Korea, Air Force.
Absent.
Maurice F. Gracia, Vietnam, Army.
Absent.
Robert H. Began, Korea, Army.
Absent.
William T. McGinnis, Vietnam, Navy.
Absent.
Thomas Masterson, Jr., unknown service, Army.
Absent.
Susan Mary Grimm, OIF, Iraq Air Force.
Absent.
Janie Henry William, Vietnam, Army.
Absent.
Jose Antonio Vargas, Vietnam, Navy.
Absent.
Theodore F. Coleman, Vietnam, Army.
Absent.
John Tyne, Vietnam, Army.
Absent.
Luis Boleris, Vietnam, Army.
Absent.
Excuse me. John Tyne was Navy. I got out of place there. Excuse me. John Tyne, Vietnam, Navy. We've already saluted there. George J. Leary, Jr., Korea, Army.
Absent.
Joseph F. Lynch, World War II, Navy.
Absent.
Paul M. Lane, Korea, Army.
Absent.
Robert A. Summerfield, World War II, Navy.
Absent.
Patrick J. McCloskey, Jr., Korea, Air Force.
Absent.
Edmund B. Beyer, Vietnam, Army.
Absent.
Paul L. McDonough, Peacetime, Army.
Absent.
Joseph E. Horan, World War II, Navy.
Absent.
Gerald R. Curtis, Korea, Air Force.
Absent.
Gerald Toomey, Vietnam, Army.
Absent.
Norman Barcelou, Korea.
Absent.
Arnold Kamale, Korea, Navy.
Absent.
John Noel Chandler, Korea, Air Force.
Absent.
Melvin Gondelman, Korea, Army.
Absent.
Last name for taps and preparation, and please salute if you are capable. Paul H. Dobson, Vietnam, Army.
Absent.
Thank you. Thank you, Senior Chief. Senator Timilton. Okay. The last time I saw Senator Timilton was about an hour and a half ago, and he was in a full sprint. He is still, and without doubt, our greatest help for all the veterans in Milton, and I do owe him a large favor for including me. his consultation. Always an open ear, always available. If I need something and I'm in trouble, I've got a constituent who's calling me, a veteran, says I need help, the first office I tell him to come to, get hold of Senator Tinley's, they'll straighten it up, and he does every time. Thank you, Senator. We're honored to have you here today.
Thank you, Kevin, very much. Thank you. To Senior Chief Dan Yaccarino. Dan, thank you very much. It's an honor to be here with you. The Senior Chief, along with all our veterans today, have protected us with their service and honored us today with their presence. So to each and every veteran today, thank you. And also serving in the military of the armed forces of the United States of America, the most magnificent armed forces the world has ever seen, is a shared sacrifice. So to all our families today of our military service women and servicemen, thank you. And to Ashley and April and Violet, thank you. We have witnessed you during Dan's deployments to the Middle East. And Dan is very modest, of course, and humble. Dan is a CB, and he's also been attached to swift boats, protecting our capital ships in the Middle East attached to the 5th Fleet from terrorist attacks. I have seen the pictures of those speedboats, or swift boats as some might call them. They bristle with 50 caliber heavy machine guns, and they are there solely to protect our capital ships when they are most vulnerable coming in and out of port from terrorist attacks. So Dan, thank you very much. Thank you. Today, on behalf of our Representative Bill Driscoll and Representative Randy Fluker-Oakley, who stand with me here today on the dais, we are here to honor and remember our brave and courageous men and women who have served in our nation's armed forces, many of whom stand beside us today, our veterans. Specifically, of course, today, we remember those that have made the ultimate sacrifice to protect our freedoms and our way of life. On this Memorial Day, we gather together to reflect on the selflessness, the courage, and the commitment of those who have courageously given their lives to protect our great nation and our citizenry. Moreover, today we honor the sacrifices that our fallen heroes and heroines have made to preserve the freedoms of the many nations the world over enjoy because of the blanket of the protection of the United States military, the most magnificent armed forces the world has ever seen. Moreover, it is important to recognize the many contributions of veterans to our nation, from the Revolutionary War to the present-day global war on terror that we have been engaged in since September 11, 2011. Our veterans have fought and died to protect us all. For that, we are eternally grateful. Today, of course, we honor our fallen heroines and heroes that have made this ultimate sacrifice in defense of our great nation, our liberties, and our way of life. Demonstrating courage, fortitude in the face of danger, our brave heroes and heroines have served with distinction and fidelity, sacrificing their lives in the service of the Marine Corps, the United States Army, the National Guard, the Air National Guard, our Coast Guard, of course our Space Force, and the United States Navy. And again, the most magnificent armed forces that the world has ever witnessed. A force for good throughout the globe. And we have expressed this today, and I will say it again. We owe a great debt of gratitude to our veterans for their service and dedication. Many of whom stand beside us or in front of us today, we say thank you. We must continue to remember and honor the sacrifices of our fallen heroes and heroines, and acknowledge the incredible contributions that they have made to our country. On this day, we remember those who have given their lives in the service of our armed forces. In short, we remember their courage and bravery. Furthermore, we are forever grateful to our fallen service members from each and every one of our great services. Just as important today, we also thank the Gold Star families, our Gold Star families, some of whom are here today, for their sacrifice and for supporting our veterans throughout their service. As a kid growing up in this great town, I remember walking across the Larry O'Neill Bridge. Corporal Larry O'Neill, this bridge is on Thatcher Street right near Clap. Corporal O'Neill was a member of the United States Army Air Corps, and he perished in action in the China, Burma, and India theater in World War II fighting for our country. I also remember the Will Cloney tennis courts being dedicated at Kelly Field. Will Cloney was killed in Vietnam fighting for our country. And of course, I remember the dedication of the Corporal Paul Curran overpass. Corporal Curran was airborne in Vietnam and was the first son of Milton to be killed in Vietnam. course, the current family today flourishes here in Milton. So let us take a moment of silence to remember those who have served our country and given the ultimate sacrifice in defense of our nation. Thank you. It's truly an honor again to be here with you all today with our veterans to pay tribute to our honored fallen heroes and heroines. And I thank the Milton Police and Fire Honor Guards. I thank our scouts, of course our Legion Post, and our wonderful band from Milton High and our force. It's an honor to be here with you all today. God bless our fallen heroes and heroines. Let us never forget them. And God bless our Gold Star families. Thank you.
We now have a closing prayer by Reverend Kirkham Hall from St. Michael's Episcopal Church.
Blessed as we are, O Holy One, in our coming together today to hold in our hearts the memory of lives given over. May this act of remembrance speak of all that is possible, even if we have seen it occasionally deferred or threatened. May it challenge us to embrace our common siblinghood while there is still time. May it bring us sustenance for the work we assert towards liberty and justice for all. And may the blessing of the one who creates and liberates and sustains us be with us now and always. Amen.
We will conclude with God Bless America by our marching band. Again, thank you for all being here. I know there's other places you could be today. Memorial Day is not the kickoff of summer, regardless of what the media tells you. It is a solemn day of remembrance and always will be in Milton. And I am honored to be your veterans agent and to assist with this process. You have my thanks and my appreciation for all you do. And this lovely band that has dealt with my issues. To full mast as we have celebrated and remembered our heroes, and now we will carry on with the rest of the day as they would want. Thank you again from the town of Milton, and thank you personally from myself, Navy CB, here in Milton. Thank you. Yeah, come on in, guys. Come on, give me a hand. Come on, Austin. What?